Well, one that we have been looking forward to for a long time, and another one made right here in our backyard.
Yeah, let's get to it. This is the Screening Room Podcast.
Are either one of these any good?
Wow, this is a good movie.
It's pretty good.
Well, the director from yesterday doesn't think so.
It stinks.
You sorry? You waste our film.
It's so bad!
Welcome back. She is Hope Madden,
He's George Wolf.
and we are from MaddWolf.com, checking out some releases, both in the big screen, and we've got some streamers this week as well, right?
Yep.
And we've got one that we've had our eye on for quite some time, debuting in theaters this weekend.
First up this week, the latest from Ryan Coogler. Trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. It is Sinners.
Yes, and it is great when your expectation is rewarded.
Yeah.
And boy, and this one does. This is Ryan, director, Ryan Coogler is back with star Michael B. Jordan, and they go back to remember a Fruitvale Station.
Yeah.
What a gutting movie that was, and that sort of put them both on the map. And since then, we've had Black Panther, and we've had Creed. Yeah, so they do great stuff together, and this is just the latest, especially for people like us that like a little blood, like a little horror, and like a lot of vampires.
Yeah, it's a really great movie. It's like a grown-up vampire movie. I mean, it never feels like kind of a superficial horror film at all. There's a lot of backstory. There's a lot of storytelling packed into this a little bit over 2 hours timeline. It's set in 1932 Mississippi. The Smokestack twins, both played by Michael B. Jordan, are back in the Delta after having been in Chicago for a number of years, and they are back with some ill-gotten cash and liquor, and they intend to open a juke joint for us by us. And not only do they probably need to worry about the Klan, they also unwittingly need to worry about those 3 vampires that are out in the parking lot. And one of those vampires is played by Jack O'Connell, who's one of our all-time favorites back when he was a creepy kid in Eden Lake. He's always great in everything. But it's not just those 2. I mean, the entire cast is amazing. There's a guy, Miles Caton. This is his first film, and he plays the blues guitarist singer whose voice is what brings the devil to the juke joint. And then you've got Buddy Guy in a cameo. Delroy Lindo, always love to see him. Haley Steinfeld is in it, and Wunmi Mosaku. Sorry, I wanted to find how to spell it to make sure I didn't mispronounce it, but we loved her in Lovecraft Country.
Oh yeah,
His House, and she has the character that a lot of horror films have, which is like the lucky we have this expert on hand character. And in her case, she's kind of a little bit of a witch, kind of a Delta priestess sort of a thing. And so, but I think one of the reasons that it works is because it is a tropey sort of a character, but she's such a good actor. She has so much like heart and just like a deep well of pain in her performance that it never feels like a convenience that we have somebody who's going to explain to us all that these are vampires.
That's right. And a nice shout out there for His House. Anybody that hasn't seen His House, look that up. That's a great one. That's a great one. More people need to see that. But right, she's great. The ensemble is great. And you mentioned Miles Caton, the young man, the newcomer. He's one of those guys that has a singing voice you don't expect to come out of him.
Yes.
And right away he commands your attention. So that feels real because he commands the attention of the other characters.
Yeah.
And you can see why. He's got a fantastic, unique voice, real gritty. It's perfect for this type of music. And I love the way that Coogler weaves music into this, not just the blues music, but then on the other side of the Jack O'Connell vampires, you've got this traditional Irish, the jigs, the call of another people feeling hopeless and using music to lift themselves up. And you made a good point about that in your written review. The movie does a fantastic job of juxtaposing those two. And when the juke joint comes under attack, you have a framing of 2 different sides of an attack. There's 2 different groups of attackers. and is one actually offering you a deliverance from the other? And it's an
Right.
interesting set of questions that come up.
It is. I think the first thing that Coogler, who wrote and directed, does is he sets up religion, money, and music, right, as tools that oppressors use to give hope to the powerless, and that those are and that they're all a sort of temptation, which is what the vampires represent, is temptation. Like, if you want community, if you want power, that is what we are offering you for real. And I think it was a great way, first of all, to make the music not just be like a superficial kind of, oh yeah, that's fun, but a really important element in the film. I think it's easy, and you can see it. Obviously, there's a little bit of From Dusk Till Dawn, happening here. There's a little bit also, as you pointed out, there's a little The Thing happening
Yeah.
in the scenes. But at no point does this movie ever feel like a retread of anything.
No, no. Yeah, the Dusk Till Dawn thing comes in just because it reaches a point where they're holed up in the juke joint and under attack. So yeah, you can
By
see that,
vampires.
but that's about as far as it goes. And then
Yeah.
there's a bit of a scene where they're having to decide who they can trust as a vampire or a non-vampire, and they come up with a test. And so
Yeah.
it's just little fleeting moments. But no,
Yes.
you're right. The movie stands on its own, and anytime you can take something as well worn as a vampire movie and give it new life, pun not intended, it's an achievement. And
Yeah.
this does that. It gives you another way to look at it. And of course, it does get bloody. Don't get us wrong here. It is a vampire movie. It is a horror movie, and boy, it's just everything is right about it. It
Yeah.
feels authentic. I
Yeah.
love the setting. Going back to 1932, a lot going on in the country,
Yeah.
and it's a really nice place to set it.
Yeah.
Sort of like when we saw, Prey go back in time.
Yeah.
You take these tropes, these well-worn monsters, and put them somewhere new.
Yeah.
And right away, you're kind of off kilter. So yeah, it's of course a strong performance as always, times two from
Right.
Michael B. Jordan, and carving out two pretty distinct brothers here, two different characters.
Agreed. So I'm a twin, as you know, George, and Joy and we always like to watch movies or TV shows where they put twins in, especially horror movies, because usually it's so flat and fake. There's always like a good one and a bad one. But the best films are the performances, are the ones where, as Jordan does in this movie, he creates two individual characters who are codependent. They're just two people, they're different human beings, but they share all of the exact same history. All of the same things have happened to them at the same time in the same point in history. And so they're similarities. And then he makes two completely separate and yet dependent upon each other characters. I think he does a great job with that.
Yeah, and they also have some fun, some extra fun. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying it's a trope of vampires that they have to be invited in.
Yes.
I mean, we all know that. That's been done. They have some
I hope you know
extra.
that if you don't, FYI, don't invite them in.
Yeah, but they have some extra fun with that, I think. That's a little sly, and as it goes on, and some trickery involved, and then other characters getting wise. Like, wait a minute now. So yeah, I like where it goes. It's
Yeah.
really something that is satisfying on
Very.
really all levels. I mean,
Yes.
once you find out it's a vampire movie, well, okay, a certain set of expectations come up. And really now, a certain set of expectations come up when you're throwing out the names Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan. I
Yeah.
mean, they're bringing it yet again.
Yep.
And this is really, really satisfying. All the early word, all the people that we've talked to that have seen it already, just are just loving it. I really hope people see it in the theater. It does offer an IMAX version,
Does.
which always love that even
And
more.
stick around. Don't leave.
Yes, at my screening, a guy, it was actually just me and one other guy who I didn't know, and he left. And it's really, you don't have to wait that long. It's
No,
not
you
like
didn't.
it's not like it's after the credits,
No.
but it's important. It's
It is.
important, and it gives
It's
you a nice bit. Yeah. Yeah, so do not leave. Do not leave too early, even when you think it's wrapped up. But Yeah, so satisfying. We always love to see when horror movies get their due, and this one is a good one. It's Sinners. Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan doing more great stuff, and it is out in theaters now. Go see it.
That's right.
Next, it's a fairy tale reimagining that follows Elvira as she battles against her gorgeous stepsister in a realm where beauty reigns supreme. She resorts to extreme measures to captivate the prince amidst a ruthless competition for physical perfection. The Ugly Stepsister.
Woo-hoo. Okay, more blood and other things and body fluids and
Yes.
whoo, lots going on here. And it's funny when this movie was coming up. You mentioned it to me a couple weeks ago. I was oblivious, and you kept saying, "Oh, where it is, it really brings it," and it does. This is an uncomfortable movie. It makes you squirm in your seat, and this is the debut feature for Norwegian writer director Emily Birchfeld, and I hope I pronounced that right. But it's a great first feature. This is a reimagining of the Cinderella story, and it's from a different angle. But don't think that we're going down the wicked path where you're finding a villain suddenly made sympathetic and more human. There are plenty of bad guys and girls to go around in this version of the story.
I think one of the things, and I mean, you know better than anybody how much I hate what happens when somebody decides that they're going to reimagine an old fairy tale from the perspective of the villain, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, just noble and misunderstood. I hate that because I love a good villain.
Right.
And I hate to see them neutered like that. And this is, as you might guess, is from the point of view, as you said, of the older of the two ugly stepsisters, played miraculously by Leah Mirren.
Great.
It's her. She's so wonderful in every stage of this character. She's so great with the whole arc, and the film is it's interested in how horrible, like the horrible impact of the ridiculous standard of beauty is, and it doesn't matter at what period in history it came about. It's awful for everybody involved, but also I think wisely, it speaks to the just the desperation to survive that women faced during different periods of history, based on the fact that they couldn't own property and they couldn't own money, and so they needed certain things just to be alive, to survive, to keep their family alive. And that's really, if you think about it, was at the heart of the Cinderella story, is that they're all vying for safety, security, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think what I also love about this is that, like I think a number of films now have done, is that the prince is not a good dude. He's not a good dude, and yet he's the best they're going to do, because even though they will probably get syphilis, they will have food on their tables, right?
Yeah.
And I just love how all of that is interwoven in this movie in a way that never feels like you're being preached to, and forever surprises you with where it goes, with the visuals you're going to be subjected to.
Yeah, and it's Elvira. It's spelled Elvira, but it's Elvira. And yeah, when we first meet her, she's got braces and she's gawky and she's just this awkward kid, and she's moving into the new manor where her mother has just married Otto for money. And so she brings along the younger sister Alma as well. And so they move into the manor and meet their new stepsister, the beautiful Agnes. Well, it isn't long before Otto drops dead, and Agnes drops the bomb that they don't really have any money. They were hoping to marry up for money. So whoopsie. So it quickly falls upon Elvira to try to marry the prince, something that she's been dreaming of for a while, because he's put out some books of poetry.
That's right.
And she's been reading them and just dreaming all starry-eyed about meeting him someday. Well, now that's the plan, is to mold her into someone who can be the most beautiful and the most charming of all the quote unquote noble virgins at the ball that Prince Julian is going to throw in a few months. And the body modifications that she goes through are not shied away from. I mean, we see them very closely.
Oh yeah, it's almost Cronenbergian what we get
Yeah.
to see. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very Cronenberg-esque, very closely, and you're gonna wince in your seat. And they don't spare the blood; they don't spare the rum. As it goes through and it gets closer to the date of the ball, and we learn things about everybody, about Agnes and what she's doing, about what Prince Julian, like you said, he's not a good dude. The lengths that mom will go to inflict pain upon Elvira just so she can be maybe a little bit more beautiful and hopefully nab this marriage. So all that is going on, and we know that story pretty well, the Cinderella story. But man, it's satirical.
Yeah.
It is bracingly funny.
Yeah.
It's furious. I mean, it's mad, but it's not mad in the way that, say, like The Substance. It's not quite as garish, I don't think, in its furiousness. But it is rage filled, but it also has a real satirical bit of humor to it as well. But it gets it. Don't get me wrong. It gets its point across.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah, it's nasty. It's nasty business. It is. I thought it was great. I was
I thought it
so
was great
impressed by
too.
it.
And a very, very assured statement from a brand new filmmaker
Yes.
who is, I think, already, right on the calling card of people to watch, feminist filmmakers to watch
Yeah.
on this subject. I mean, we've seen a few, for good reason. We've seen a few movies like The Substance and more that have dealt with this over the last few years. And she's right there with her own take on it, and it's well appreciated
Yeah.
and one to look in the future, to see what she's going to do in the future. But this one, as long as you're up for it, as long as you know that you're going to see some stuff that is awkward and
Nasty.
make you maybe turn away, it's worth it. Another look at a different type of fairy tale for old times and modern times as well.
Mhm.
And that is The Ugly Stepsister. That's in theaters starting this weekend.
An animated film next. When a designer sneaker unwittingly finds himself lost in New York City, he must dig deep into his soul in order to rescue his sister and return to his rightful owner. This is Sneaks.
His soul, get it?
Yeah, and this is the one we were talking about that was produced pretty much right here in our backyard. We're in Columbus, Ohio, and we got to go to the Ohio premiere of this, where they talked about how many local Columbus filmmakers, animators, everything were working on this film, which is great because
Yeah.
it's wide release, big distribution. It's all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it was made at the Columbus College of Art and Design, CCAD, which
Yep.
is a highly regarded uh,
Yeah.
college, and that's exciting. And then a big group from Grandview, which is the section of Columbus where we live. So it was very, very cool, and it's got a huge cast.
It does.
Tons of people in it. Lawrence Fishburne, Captain America. Why can't I think of his name?
Anthony Mackie. Yeah,
Um,
Martin Lawrence, Keith David.
yeah, Keith David.
Yeah, a great cast of voices. And it's got to look, well, it's going to appeal, first of all, it will appeal to kids, I think. It's a fun adventure for kids, talking shoes. And for sneakerheads, and it's got a real street art kind of vibe. I mean,
Yeah.
the story centers around this pair of ultra exclusive new basketball shoes, the A24s. And they get separated after a villainous collector of high priced shoes, voiced by Lawrence Fishburne, steals them from the young man, the teenager who won them fair and square in a raffle. And then the two shoes of the pair get separated, and they're off on an adventure going through the city, meeting different shoes, kind of a Toy Story-esque adventure a little bit, trying to go through the different parts of town and get back to each other and get back to their rightful owner of the young man who won them. So it's colorful. There's some music in it as well, some hip hop kind of songs, and this whole street art vibe, which is cool. A little graffiti, graffiti-esque, as they'll throw some spray paint up there, and then something will emerge. So I think it's one. It's not the deepest story in the world. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's one that the kids will appreciate. And I know a lot of people are into this sneaker culture, the sneakerheads.
Yeah.
And I think that will speak to them as well. So, and it's a quick one. I don't know, 80, 85 minutes or something like that. So especially if the weather this weekend is kind of, rainy like it is where we are, this would be a good family getaway just to get into a theater and to check something fun out that I think the kids will have fun with. And if this is the kind of thing, the sneakers and all that speaks to you, I think, yeah, you can appreciate it.
Yeah.
Next in theaters, a gay man makes a deal with his lesbian friend, a green card marriage for him in exchange for in vitro fertilization treatments for her. Plans evolve as Min's grandmother surprises them with a Korean wedding banquet. It's the Wedding Banquet.
So this is a remake, not really. This is a reimagining of the Ang Lee 1993, I think, film that was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film. And in that one's set in Manhattan, and it's a wealthy gay couple who are landlords of a young woman who is a Chinese immigrant. And they decide that to get his parents off his back, because they don't know that he's gay, and to keep her in the country, that they'll have a marriage of convenience. And that's the story behind the original one. And now the remake, the reimagining, is a wealthy young man who is an artist, and his student visa is up. And he's just trying to arrange with his wealthy family to just have something extended, when his grandmother says, no, you got to come back to Korea and take over the business. And so he doesn't want to. So he proposes to his boyfriend, played by Bowen Yang. And Bowen Yang is commitment phobic and says no. And so he decides, well, I've got all this money, and Kelly Marie Tran and the great Lily Gladstone, right? They want in vitro fertilization. They can afford it. He's going to pay for that. And then Kelly Marie Tran will marry him. So that's the update of it. And it's sweet. It's a sweet confection of a film. And some of the performances are really, really good. Of course, Lily Gladstone is wonderful as always. And Yoon Ye-jung, who won an Oscar for Minari. She plays the grandmother. She's, of course, magnificent. And Joan Chen, who is in a number of Ang Lee's films, actually, she plays Kelly Marie Tran's mother. She's also magnificent.
Well, she always just drops in to class up the joint.
She does. She absolutely does. And that's what she does here. She's really funny too. She's very, 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 very proud of her lesbian daughter. She's very, very, very excited that her daughter is a lesbian. She doesn't want any part of the sham marriage. So she kind of rubs off a little bit on Min's grandmother, who starts to see where, okay, maybe I can. I think there are two problems with this film, and one is not the film's fault. Is that right at this moment, they're all people of color. They're gay, in vitro fertilization, green cards. Like, these are very terrifying moments for basically every person represented by a character in this movie. So it feels, and again, it's no fault of the film, that it just feels like tone deaf, which it isn't. Yeah. Again, it isn't, but it can't help but feel that way.
Yeah, it feels flippant because of how urgent those issues are right now. Yeah.
And then the other problem really is that it's so Bowen Yang, who I love, right? He's very funny, and he does a good job with all the funny moments, but his character has a number of very serious scenes, and Yang can't seem to pull those off. And on the other side of this continuum, Kelly Marie Tran, there is one funny Star Wars joke, by the way. Kelly Marie Tran has a much harder time with the comedy. She does a fine job with all of the dramatic scenes, but she doesn't, especially in comparison to Bowen Yang, because they play best friends, she feels a little ill-suited to the comic moments. And so the movie just never completely gels. I did not dislike it, but I was a little disappointed in it.
Mm-hmm. And that is The Wedding Banquet, and this is in theaters?
It is in theaters.
Okay, that's in theaters this weekend as well.
And the next one, it's the new Shudder.
Next, it's a horror thriller. An ominous help note finds its way to a 1980s post office, connecting a dead letter investigator to a kidnapped keyboard technician in Dead Mail.
Ooh, Dead Mail.
It's so good.
Yeah, we love pitching the good Shudder stuff. I mean, I feel like people get tired. Oh, they're off on their Shudder kick again. But I'm telling you, and they've been doing the original films that also get some theater showings as well in selected cities, which is very cool.
Yeah, including The Ugly Stepsister.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. We didn't even mention that's a Shudder movie. That is right.
Yeah, it's in theaters now, but it's a Shudder original. And this is a Shudder original. And it takes place in the 1980s in Peoria, Illinois, at the post office, and it's just as glamorous as you might think. And
yes.
it's such a funny idea because the concept is so clearly not real, and yet the execution is so sort of analog, right, spot on, that you start to ask yourself, or did this happen? Like, is it possible? Is this, you really do. I did. I questioned myself later. I'm like, wait, this isn't based on a true story, is it? And the reason that no, it's not, is because in the Peoria, Illinois post office, there's this secret back room that you have to have all the different keys to get into, where Jasper sleuths out lost mail. Only if it seems like it's worth money. So the tellers find this necklace, and it's clearly worth a lot. And Jasper is gonna, conjure up where it goes with his brain and with this phone call to a guy who might be a spy. Who knows? And then they also, in the same mail pouch, they get this torn piece of paper with blood all over it that says, "Help me, I'm kidnapped. I'm staying in a ranch house somewhere out," and they name the street. Because and Jasper's like, well, it's not worth any money. I'm not going to look into that. It's probably a hoax, and he doesn't. But he doesn't throw it away, and it nags at him. So he does start to look into it. And then we switch to the story of the kidnapped victim. His name's Josh. He's played by Sterling Macer Jr., and he's trying to develop a new keyboard, like an organ. And an organ enthusiast, who is Trent, who's played by John Fleck, magnificently. He takes so much interest in what Josh is doing that he says, "Let's be partners. Let's be partners. I'll fund what you need. We'll get it made." Well, then when Josh seems like he's flirting with selling the design to a firm in China, Trent locks him down in his basement. It's so, everything about it is so ludicrous, but so impeccably made that you do, it convinces you that maybe this is a true crime story. Like, maybe this really happened. And so much of it is that John Fleck, who plays the bad guy, he's so sympathetic. Everything he does is wrong. Everything he does is wrong, and you should hate him, but you can't. And the way that the clues work together, the way that the performances work together, and the look of it is all just so stellar. I was so impressed with this movie. Kept me on the edge of my seat. I loved it.
And it's about time we had some horror in the post office. A horror movie set in the post. Just the term "dead letter." It's kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Dead letter. So a dead mail, that works. So this one is a Shudder, and it's just on the platform.
That's right. So one more reason for you to get Shudder if you don't have it already.
Yeah, Dead Mail. Check it out.
A streaming documentary is next. You can have rhythm without music, but you can't have music without rhythm. A salute to the drummers called Count Me In.
Yeah, the drummers getting their due. A new old movie. This is from director Mark Lowe, and actually was produced 4 years ago, but has been sitting around, as a lot of movies do sometimes, and finally getting its streaming release. And it's basically a love letter to drumming. Mm-hmm. It showcases drummers, legendary drummers, some drummers maybe you haven't heard of from a couple of bands, maybe you don't know, saluting their heroes, some of the drummers that have already passed away in rock and jazz, and also just letting you glimpse their stories and how much they love drumming, and how once they discovered the instrument, they just wouldn't do anything else. And so you get a lot of those great intimate stories. And yes, it also goes into the drum machine and how drummers can be replaced, as so many musicians can these days, but also respects how much that real drummers bring to the live sound and the recording. And you hear from, a lot of the legends that you expect to hear from and hear about. A lot with Stuart Copeland from the Police, sure. And then you've got people saluting. Well, there's Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers, and of course Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, and then some that have passed away like John Bonham, Keith Moon,
Taylor Hawkins,
of course. Yeah, unfortunately, and even Clem Burke from Blondie, who just passed away.
Yes, yeah,
he pops up in this as well. And then and so you see some of the history and how the newer drummers were shaped by discovering a Bonham or a Keith Moon. Ringo, of course. Ringo is one of the absences that is felt because, of course, he's still alive. You don't hear from Ringo. You don't hear from Dave Grohl. Although you did hear from Taylor Hawkins, of course, and as most people know, Dave Grohl started out as a drummer in Nirvana. Also, as people pointed out on TikTok, because I forgot to mention, you don't hear from Neil Peart, who
Oh,
has passed away, but of course they don't even mention him, which is really weird because I know a lot of people view him as one of the greatest
yeah,
drummers
yeah.
ever. Don't even mention Neil Peart, which is Phil Collins doesn't get mentioned or talked to. So there are some absences along the way, but you also hear from people that let's see, not just men. There's Samantha Maloney, who was the drummer for Hole and Eagles of Death Metal, and also her dream come true. She got to play with Motley Crue for a few months,
Wow.
which I didn't know. And then they follow a drummer from a band called the Somerset. Her name is Jess Bowen, and they follow her as she is picking out a new drum set because she's been invited to a drum circle with, among others, Chad Smith, and she is very excited, understandably. So you kind of hear her story about how she came along in a band that's still really, really up and coming and trying to get noticed. So it's intimate stories of why these people love drumming, and just it's their air that they breathe, and it's a salute to the drummers. It's another quick one, maybe 80 minutes, something like that. So if you like the rock docs and can tolerate a few noticeable absences of drummers that don't get mentioned or talked to, I would say look it up. And it's called Count Me In, and it's out on the street. Well, let's see, I think it's not on all the platforms. What I could find, it was on Prime, and it's on Plex. I think those two for sure. Anything more, I'm not sure, but at least you can find it on those two.
And one more, a comedy. 4 men attend a government retreat to prove that they have what it takes to become fathers in Daddy.
This reminds me, what was the one that we just did like 2 weeks ago where they were auditioning to be parents?
Yeah, yeah. I forget, but then there's been a few of those, because then that one got us talking about the movie from a few years ago called The Pod Generation,
Yeah,
where you see this, when tech comes into our lives so much as it has, it's going to be reflected in art, and you see these movies and scripts that deal with tests that prove you can actually be a parent.
right.
And that is another one in that vein, that
Mhm.
this movie, the question that this movie tackles, and this was reviewed by Rachel Willis for us at MaddWolf.com.
Yeah, and she thought that, when it remembered that it was a comedy, it was quite good, and when it forgot it was a comedy, it got very tedious. And it centers on, mainly one, but in the end, 4 men who are, undergoing some, tests to see whether or not they're suitable to be fathers at this sort of luxury retreat. And if they're not suitable to be fathers, they will, have a vasectomy. It's they just one or the other. And what's kind of most interesting about the movie is the way, the lead's girlfriend is also doing the same kind of a testing for women, but it's a very, very different, more grueling,
Hmm.
uglier, less lap of luxury kind of testing that she's going under. And so it does get some insightful knocks in about how dads are treated versus how moms are treated. And it is clever and fun when it remembers that it is a comedy. So not 100% great, but a clever idea, pretty well executed. And that one's on VOD as well.
Yeah, and that is called Daddy, and you can check out Rachel's full review at MaddWolf.com. Okay, the Schlocketeer, Daniel Baldwin, our buddy, a little under the weather this week, so
Yeah,
we wish him a
we
speedy
do.
recovery, and we hope that we can check in with him next week. So speaking of next week, the big one in theaters is Ben Affleck and John Berthal. They're back in The Accountant 2. That's next week.
But the big one on Netflix,
Yeah.
Tom Hardy and Havoc is finally coming out.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that, because one of the co-stars in our movie called Obstacle Corpse, which is streaming now,
Mhm.
is in that movie.
That's
Gareth
right, Gareth
Tidball.
Tidball. That's right, she is.
And I
Gareth
believe,
Edwards directed Gareth Tidball.
and I believe she also has a small part in another movie coming out that we'll talk about next week as well.
Mhm.
So
That's true.
love seeing Gareth get those parts because she's terrific.
Yeah.
Also, one we've already seen. Speaking of Cronenberg, David Cronenberg is back in The Shrouds. We'll talk about that next week.
Yep. Also on Swift Horses.
And another great rock doc. Boy, there's been a lot lately, and we're looking forward to Pink Floyd live at Pompeii next week.
Mhm. A Neighborhood Watch.
One called Free Waka.
Yeah, good Irish horror right now. Another horror movie called Shadow of God.
Okay, that's all next week. But what about this week? Are you loving Sinners as much as we did, or maybe a twisted fairy tale of the Ugly Stepsister, or Sneaks, or what do you think? The Drummers and Count Me In. Let us know. You can always keep the conversation going. You can catch up with us easily at MaddWolf.com or on all the socials at MaddWolf Columbus. We're always up to talk movies, if you haven't guessed. So until next week, when we'll talk about a brand new batch, be well. She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Screening Room Podcast.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.